Imagine for a moment that you are walking through the depths of an unexplored cave in the Grand Canyon. Your flashlights cut through the ancestral darkness when, suddenly, a faint electronic sound echoes through the rocky walls. An emergency signal, pulsing, intermittent, impossible. That signal had been echoing in the void for 8 long years. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do it now, because today we're going to reveal one of the most disturbing discoveries ever recorded in the Grand Canyon. A discovery that completely rewrote a case that had been filed away as just another tragedy on American trails. Her name was Ashley Mitchell, nurse, 29 years old, passionate about outdoor adventures. In March 2016, she disappeared without a trace in the Grand Canyon. For 8 years, her family lived in limbo between hope and despair. For 8 years, investigators traversed every known trail, every mapped ravine, every panoramic view frequented by tourists. No one imagined that the answers would be echoing in the silence of a cave that not even the park's official maps recognized as existing. Today, you will discover not only what happened to Ashley Mitchell, but also how a fortuitous discovery in 2024 revealed secrets that challenge everything we know about the hidden dangers of the Grand Canyon. Prepare yourself, because this story goes far beyond a simple disappearance. Ashley Lynn Mitchell had exactly the type of contagious energy that made people gravitate toward her. At 5 feet 6 inches tall with light brown hair that she always tied in a practical ponytail, Ashley possessed that genuine smile that reached her eyes. A smile that her colleagues at Phoenix General Hospital knew well during the most challenging night shifts. Born and raised in Scottsdale, Arizona, Ashley had found her calling early. Since childhood, she demonstrated a natural compassion that naturally led her to nursing. At 29, she had already accumulated 6 years of experience in the intensive care unit, where her calm under pressure and ability to connect with patients in vulnerable moments made her one of the most respected professionals in the hospital. But Ashley had a second love: the mountains and trails of the American Southwest. Every free weekend, you would find her exploring some new trail. Her Phoenix apartment was decorated with photos of her adventures: the sunrise in Sedona, the rock formations of Antelope Canyon, the majestic views of Zion. She had established an ambitious personal goal: to visit all 63 American national parks before turning 35. At 29, she had already conquered an impressive 31 parks, documenting each journey on a personal blog called Trails and Tales that attracted thousands of weekly followers. Ashley wasn't just a casual hiker, she invested seriously in her equipment. Merrell boots tested on diverse terrains, a 40-liter Osprey backpack, Camelback hydration system, complete first aid kit that she had assembled herself with her medical experience, Garmin GPS, and always, a personal emergency locator. Safety was her absolute priority, a philosophy she had developed after witnessing, as a nurse, the consequences of preventable accidents. Her parents, Robert and Linda Mitchell, lived just 20 minutes from her apartment. Ashley was an only child, and the trio maintained an exceptionally close relationship. Every Sunday, they gathered for the traditional family brunch, where Ashley shared stories of her latest adventures while planning the next expedition. Robert, a retired Intel engineer, had been the one who first awakened Ashley's love for nature through family camping trips during her childhood. Linda, a retired elementary school teacher, was always the one who worried about the safety of their daughter's increasingly ambitious adventures. She had a special light, Linda would later tell investigators. Ashley saw beauty where others saw only rocks and dirt. She said that hiking was her form of meditation, her way of connecting with something greater. At the time of her disappearance, Ashley was in a serious relationship with David Chen, a radiologist she had met at the hospital 2 years earlier. David shared her passion for outdoor activities, and the two frequently explored trails together on weekends. They had begun discussing marriage seriously, and David would later reveal that he was planning to propose to her during an upcoming trip to Yellowstone. Ashley maintained a disciplined routine. She woke up at 5:30 in the morning to run 5 kilometers in the neighborhood before work. Her hospital shifts usually started at 7 in the morning and ended at 7 in the evening. She was known for never missing work, never arriving late, and always volunteering for extra shifts when colleagues needed help. Her savings were carefully divided between an OE Twilights emergency fund, retirement contributions, and her adventure account, money dedicated exclusively to equipment and trips to national parks. What made Ashley truly special was her ability to balance professional responsibility with personal passion. Colleagues frequently commented on how she managed to work 12-hour shifts, saving lives in the hospital, and still find energy to meticulously plan weekend trails. Ashley never did anything halfway, her supervisor Susan Martinez would say. If she was going hiking, she studied maps for hours. If she was caring for a patient, she gave total attention. That was simply her nature. In March 2016, Ashley was excited about her next big challenge, a 3-day solo trail in the Grand Canyon, something she had been planning for months. It would be her 4th visit to the park, but the first time she would attempt some of the less popular routes. She had reserved a week off from the hospital and spent weeks studying topographic maps, weather conditions, and reports from other hikers. No one knew that this carefully planned journey would become the beginning of one of the most disturbing mysteries in Grand Canyon history. March 15, 2016. A Tuesday that dawned with the kind of pristine clarity that makes the Grand Canyon appear almost ethereal. The temperature was a perfect 68 degrees Fahrenheit, with gentle winds from the southwest at just 5 miles per hour. Visibility was unlimited, one of those rare desert days where you could see for miles in every direction. If Ashley Mitchell had handpicked the weather conditions for her solo adventure, she couldn't have chosen better. Ashley had arrived at Grand Canyon Village at 6:45 in the morning, driving her metallic blue Honda CR-V through Arizona's still empty roads. Security cameras at the visitor center captured her parking in row C, space 47, at exactly 6:52 in the morning. She was wearing her characteristic trail outfit: gray hiking pants, olive green technical shirt, brown Merrell boots, and her Arizona Diamondbacks baseball cap, the same one she wore on all her adventures for superstition. At 7:15, Ashley entered the visitor center. The staff member on duty, Margaret Torres, remembered her vividly later. She seemed excited but prepared, Margaret would recall. She asked about current trail conditions, specifically about the South Rim Trail, and some of the less frequented routes that branch off from it. I warned her about staying on marked trails, especially if she was hiking alone. Ashley bought an updated topographic map and an extra bottle of water. At 7:32, she officially registered her intention to hike in the park's logbook, a practice she followed religiously on all her adventures. Her careful handwriting indicated Ashley Mitchell, solo hike, South Rim Trail, with possible extension to Hermit's Rest. Expected return, 6 p.m. Emergency contact, David Chen, 602-555-7891. At 7:45, Ashley began her hike on the South Rim Trail. a relatively popular route that offers spectacular views without extreme technical difficulty. Trail cameras captured her passing the first checkpoint at 8:12, waving cheerfully at the camera. The last confirmed image of Ashley Mitchell alive. The South Rim Trail is well maintained and clearly marked for the first 8 kilometers. Ashley knew this section well, having hiked it on her 3 previous visits to the park. But this time, she had planned something different. In her blog, published 3 days earlier, she had mentioned her intention to explore some of the lesser-known branches that connect with the main trail, a statement that would later become crucial for investigators. At 11:30, a group of hikers reported seeing a woman matching Ashley's description at an intersection where a secondary, unofficial trail branches off from the main South Rim Trail. This trail, later identified as an abandoned 1920s mining route, didn't appear on modern park maps and had no official signage. She was studying her map and GPS, testified the group's leader, Frank Morrison, from Denver. When we asked if she needed help, she smiled and said she was exploring an alternative route to Hermit's Rest. She seemed confident and well-equipped. Nothing about the interaction concerned us at the time. That was the last confirmed sighting of Ashley Mitchell. At 6:30 p.m., half an hour after her expected return, David Chen called Ashley's cell phone, straight to voicemail. He didn't worry immediately. Ashley frequently lost track of time when she was photographing stunning landscapes. But at 8 p.m., when she still hadn't returned his calls, concern began to set in. At 8:45, David drove to the Grand Canyon. Ashley's Honda CR-V was still parked in space 47, exactly where she had left it 13 hours earlier. The keys weren't in the car. Her personal bag was locked in the trunk, untouched. David immediately sought out park rangers. At 9:15, Ranger Supervisor James Patterson initiated official missing person protocols. A preliminary search team was dispatched immediately to traverse the South Rim Trail with high-powered flashlights, calling Ashley's name and listening for any response. The temperature had dropped to 45 degrees Fahrenheit. In the Grand Canyon, even in March, nights can be dangerously cold for someone unprepared or injured. But Ashley wasn't unprepared. Her equipment included extra layer clothing and emergency gear, unless something had gone terribly wrong. At midnight, when the preliminary search teams returned without success, the operation was escalated to a full search and rescue, scheduled to begin at dawn. March 16, 2016, 6 a.m., the Grand Canyon Search and Rescue mobilized one of the most comprehensive operations in its recent history. More than 40 specialized professionals, including experienced trackers, wilderness paramedics, rappelling specialists, and 2 helicopters with infrared thermal equipment. The search and rescue coordinator, Captain Sarah Williams, established the command center at the visitor center. Ashley Mitchell represents the type of case that concerns us most, she explained to the family. Experienced hiker, well-equipped, who simply vanished. This usually means serious accident or disorientation in unknown terrain. The first theory was an accidental fall. The Grand Canyon kills approximately 12 people per year, with falls representing about half of those deaths. False edges, loose rocks, disorientation. The possibilities were numerous. Aerial teams scoured all visible ravines and ledges along the South Rim Trail, searching for signs of colorful equipment or movement. The second theory was disorientation and exposure. Even experienced hikers can get lost when they leave marked trails, especially in terrain that looks familiar but contains subtle variations. Nighttime temperatures in the Grand Canyon can cause hypothermia rapidly, even for well-prepared people. During the second day, investigators made a disturbing discovery. At the intersection where Ashley was last seen, they found footprints leaving the main trail toward the abandoned mining route. The prints matched Ashley's Merrill boots. The sole pattern was distinctive and unique. The footprints were clear for approximately 200 meters, reported specialist tracker Miguel Santos. After that, the terrain becomes too rocky to maintain impressions, but the direction was consistent. She had definitely followed the mining trail. The abandoned mining trail presented unique challenges. Built in the 1920s to access small copper operations, it was never maintained after the mines closed. Decades of erosion had created dangerously unstable sections. More concerning still, the trail passed through several areas where old mining operations had created deep vertical shafts, some covered only partially by overgrown vegetation. On the third day, helicopters with thermal equipment detected two potential anomalies, points that could represent a human body. Rappelling teams were dispatched to investigate both locations. The first proved to be a deer that had been dead for several days. The second was a rock formation that, viewed from the air, created a misleading thermal signature. The Mitchell family remained at the Grand Canyon during the entire initial search operation. Robert Mitchell, Ashley's father, joined ground teams whenever protocols allowed. "I knew my daughter," he said repeatedly to investigators. "She wouldn't take unnecessary risks. Something happened to her. Something beyond her control." David Chen established a detailed timeline of Ashley's last 48 hours, looking for any clue about her mental state or undisclosed plans. Everything pointed to a careful adventurer executing a well-thought-out plan. There were no indications of depression, financial problems, or desire to disappear voluntarily. On the fifth day, the active search operation was officially suspended. More than 150 square kilometers had been meticulously scoured. Every accessible ravine, every visible ledge, every obvious cavity had been investigated. The helicopter's thermal equipment had detected no signs of human life. "This doesn't mean we're giving up," Captain Williams assured the family. "It means we're transitioning to a different phase of the investigation. Passive search will continue indefinitely. Any new sighting or evidence will be investigated immediately." The official theory was that Ashley had suffered a fatal accident in a location that remained inaccessible to search teams, possibly in one of the old vertical mines that dotted the area. Her body would eventually be found by other hikers or during future search operations. But deep down, the most experienced investigators felt that something about this case was different. Ashley Mitchell had simply vanished in a way that defied conventional explanations. And in the Grand Canyon, when someone disappears that way, sometimes they remain disappeared forever. What no one knew was that, at that exact moment, 150 meters below the surface in a cave that not even the most detailed geological maps recognized as existing, an emergency locator was pulsing silently in the darkness, waiting for someone who was listening. Time moved differently for the Mitchell family after March 2016. Days blurred into months, months into years, and still Ashley remained gone. Vanished into the vast geological maze of the Grand Canyon as if she had never existed at all. Robert Mitchell never stopped looking. Every weekend for the first 2 years, he drove the 3 hours from Scottsdale to the Grand Canyon, parking in the same space where Ashley had left her Honda CR-V. He walked the South Rim Trail countless times, studying every rock formation, every shadow, every possible place where his daughter might have fallen. He learned to read the landscape like a desperate man learns to read hope in the smallest details. Linda Mitchell handled the disappearance differently. She became the keeper of Ashley's memory, maintaining her daughter's blog and social media accounts, responding to the ETE. Hundreds of messages from fellow hikers and strangers moved by the story. She organized annual search events on the anniversary of Ashley's disappearance, bringing together volunteer search teams who combed through areas the official teams might have missed. David Chen struggled with a grief that had no closure. He kept Ashley's engagement ring in his pocket for 3 years, unable to let go of the life they had planned together. He eventually joined the National Park Service as a volunteer, search coordinator, channeling his pain into helping other families navigate the nightmare of having someone vanish in the wilderness. As years passed, new theories emerged. Some investigators began to suspect Ashley might have staged her own disappearance, a theory that devastated her family but gained traction among certain circles. Financial records showed she had been making unusual cash withdrawals in the weeks before her disappearance. Her internet history revealed she had been researching off-grid living and survival techniques. But those closest to Ashley knew these details had innocent explanations. She was simply preparing for more ambitious hiking adventures and had been saving cash for park fees and camping expenses. In 2018, a breakthrough seemed imminent when human remains were discovered in a remote ravine 15 miles from where Ashley was last seen. DNA testing took 6 months, and the Mitchell family lived in agonizing limbo, preparing themselves for the worst kind of closure. The remains belonged to a male hiker who had disappeared in 1987. A tragic discovery for another family, but not the answers the Mitchells desperately needed. Other disappearances in the Grand Canyon during this period added new dimensions to Ashley's case. In 2017, a geology professor vanished in eerily similar circumstances. In 2019, 2 experienced rock climbers disappeared from the North Rim, leaving behind equipment but no trace of what happened. Investigators began to wonder if there was a pattern, something about the Grand Canyon's geology or wildlife that created hidden dangers they didn't fully understand. The rise of social media brought both help and harassment to the Mitchell family. Amateur investigators created elaborate online theories, some helpful, others wildly speculative. A few even claimed Ashley had been abducted by human traffickers or had fallen victim to a serial killer targeting solo female hikers. The family learned to filter through the noise, following only the leads that seemed credible. Technology evolved dramatically during the 8 years Ashley was missing. Ground-penetrating radar became more sophisticated. Thermal imaging improved. Drone technology advanced to the point where unmanned aircraft could explore terrain previously accessible only to expert climbers. In 2022, the National Park Service conducted a new, comprehensive search using cutting-edge equipment, focusing on the abandoned mining areas where Ashley's trail had gone cold. Still nothing. Dr. Jennifer Nakamura, a geologist who had studied the Grand Canyon for over 2 decades, offered a sobering perspective. People underestimate the sheer scale of what we're dealing with. The Grand Canyon contains approximately 1.2 million acres of some of the most complex terrain on Earth. There are caverns, crevices, and underground systems that we're still discovering. It's entirely possible for someone to fall into a geological feature that essentially swallows them completely. By 2024, Ashley Mitchell had joined the grim statistics of America's missing persons, one of approximately 600,000 people who disappear each year, and one of the thousands who vanish specifically in national parks. Her case remained officially open, but the active investigation had long since moved to the back burner. The Mitchell family had learned to live with uncertainty, finding ways to honor Ashley's memory while accepting they might never know what happened to their daughter. March 12, 2024. Almost exactly 8 years after Ashley Mitchell vanished, a team of professional speleologists was conducting the first comprehensive survey of previously unknown cave systems in the Grand Canyon's North Rim area. The team, led by Dr. Marcus Rodriguez from Northern Arizona University, was using advanced ground-penetrating radar to map subsurface geological formations as part of a larger research project on water flow patterns in the canyon. The discovery happened at 2:47 p.m., during what should have been a routine equipment check. We were about 200 feet below the surface, following a limestone passage that wasn't on any existing cave maps. Dr. Rodriguez later explained to investigators. Sarah Chen, our team's electronics specialist, was calibrating our communication equipment when she detected something impossible: a digital signal. The signal was faint but unmistakably artificial, a series of regular electronic pulses that indicated some kind of emergency beacon. In the absolute silence of a deep cave, even the weakest electronic signal can carry much farther than on the surface. But this signal had been pulsing in complete isolation for an unknown period of time. My first thought was that it was equipment malfunction, Sarah Chen recalled. Electronic devices don't work that deep underground without specific modifications. But as we triangulated the signal, it became clear it was coming from deeper in the cave system, in an area we hadn't even mapped yet. The speleology team faced a difficult decision. Protocol dictated they should exit the cave and report the discovery to park authorities. But the signal was growing weaker, suggesting whatever device was generating it was finally failing after years of operation. They had perhaps hours, maybe less, before the signal disappeared forever. Dr. Rodriguez made the call to investigate immediately. Following the signal required navigating through a passage so narrow that team members had to remove their packs and push them ahead of them. The cave system revealed itself to be far more extensive than initial surveys had suggested. A network of chambers and tunnels carved by centuries of water flow, hidden beneath layers of limestone and sandstone. At 4:15 p.m., they found her. Ashley Mitchell was in a chamber approximately 400 feet below the surface, in a space that had clearly once been much smaller but had been expanded by some kind of geological event, possibly a small earthquake or gradual rock shift that had opened the chamber but also sealed the passages that might have allowed her to escape. She was not alive. But the condition of her remains and equipment told a story that would haunt investigators for months. Ashley's backpack was neatly organized beside her body. Her GPS device, the source of the signal, was still functioning after 8 years, though its battery indicator showed less than 1% power remaining. Most remarkably, she had created what appeared to be a detailed journal of her time in the cave, written in a small notebook using a pencil that had been sharpened down to barely 2 inches long. The journal, written in Ashley's careful handwriting, documented her fall through what she described as a false floor covered by vegetation into the cave system. She had survived the fall with only minor injuries, but quickly realized that the opening she had fallen through was too high and unstable for her to climb back out. Her cell phone had no signal at that depth, but her GPS emergency beacon continued to function, broadcasting her location to satellites that couldn't help her in her underground prison. The most devastating entries came from her first week in the cave, when she realized rescue. Teams were likely searching for her, but would have no reason to look for subsurface signals. She had water from a small underground stream and emergency food supplies for several days, but she understood that time was working against her. Her final journal entry, dated March 23, 2016, 8 days after her disappearance, read simply, "If someone finds this, tell my family I tried to get back to them. The GPS is still working. I hope it helps find others who might fall down here. The cave is beautiful, even in darkness. I'm not afraid anymore." The Discovery team found other evidence that Ashley had spent her final days exploring the accessible portions of the cave system, apparently looking for another way out. She had carefully marked passages with small rock cairns, created a basic map on the back pages of her journal, and even discovered what appeared to be Native American petroglyphs in one of the deeper chambers. When the recovery team finally brought Ashley's remains to the surface on March 15, 2024, her GPS emergency beacon emitted its final signal after exactly 8 years, 11 months, and 30 days of continuous operation. The device had outlasted its manufacturer's specifications by more than 3,000%, continuing to broadcast hope into the void long after hope itself had died in the darkness below. The forensic analysis of the cave discoveries revealed a story that is simultaneously devastating and extraordinary. Ashley Mitchell had survived for at least 8 days after her fall, possibly longer than that. The official cause of death was determined to be hypothermia and dehydration, but her actions during those final days painted the portrait of a young woman who faced an impossible situation with impressive courage and methodology. Dr. Patricia Williams, Arizona's forensic pathologist, explained the findings. Ashley showed all the signs of someone who fought rationally for survival. She rationed her food, stayed hydrated as much as possible with the cave's water source, and used her medical knowledge to treat injuries from the fall. Even more impressive, she continued trying to communicate her location until the end. Ashley's GPS had recorded her exact location during all 8 years, coordinates that revealed she was directly below an area that had been intensively searched by rescue teams in 2016. The tragedy is that the technology to detect underground signals existed, but no one thought to look for them 400 feet deep. "This case will change our protocols forever," admitted Captain Sarah Williams, still the Grand Canyon's search and rescue coordinator. "We now include subsurface detection equipment in all missing person operations. Ashley's discovery will save lives in the future." But disturbing questions remain unanswered. Geological analysis of the cave where Ashley was found revealed that the opening through which she fell, what she described as a false floor covered by vegetation, had closed completely due to natural rock movement. This means that even if the 2016 teams had searched in the exact area, they wouldn't have found evidence of the original opening. Even more intriguing, the discovery led to the identification of at least 12 other similar cavities in the same geological region. 3 of them contained evidence of historical human occupation, not just the Native American artifacts that Ashley had documented, but also mining equipment from the 1920s and, in one cavity, human remains that preliminary analysis suggests belong to a miner who disappeared in 1924. Ashley's journal became a crucial document not only for her family, but for researchers studying psychological survival in extreme situations. Her writings show a fascinating progression: initial panic and despair giving way to methodical analysis of her situation, followed by an almost zen acceptance of her fate in the final days. She transformed a personal tragedy into a scientific legacy, observed Dr. Rodriguez. Her observations about the cave's hydrology, her documentation of geological formations, even her sketches of the Native American petroglyphs, all of this contributes to our understanding of previously unknown underground systems in the Grand Canyon. For the Mitchell family, the discovery brought the closure they had sought for 8 years, but also a new form of pain. Knowing that Ashley had survived for days, waiting for a rescue that never came, was almost harder to bear than the previous uncertainty. "At least we know she didn't give up," said Robert Mitchell during a memorial held at the site where his daughter was found. "She fought until the end. And even at the end, she was thinking about how to help other people who might find themselves in the same situation. Ashley Mitchell's case exposed a sobering reality about American national parks. There are dangers that not even decades of wilderness management experience can completely predict. The Grand Canyon, with its 1.2 million acres and constantly changing geology, continues hiding secrets that challenge our understanding. Today, a memorial plaque marks the approximate surface location where Ashley Mitchell first disappeared. The text, chosen by the family, reads, "Ashley Lynn Mitchell, nurse, adventurer, beloved daughter. Her courage in darkness illuminates the path for others." But perhaps the most fitting tribute is the fact that the search and rescue protocols developed after her discovery have already saved 3 lives. Hikers who fell into similar cavities and were located using subsurface detection technology that is now standard in all park operations. Ashley Mitchell disappeared in the Grand Canyon in March 2016, but her story continues helping people almost a decade later. In the end, perhaps that's exactly the kind of legacy that a nurse dedicated to saving lives would have chosen for herself. Some mysteries in the wilderness are never meant to be solved, but sometimes, just sometimes, the darkness gives up its secrets, and we learn that even in the most hopeless circumstances, the human spirit finds ways to shine a light for those who come after.